Hi everybody. Today I am going to show how to make a sheep. And this is a special video for Beth, just so she can watch how they're made. So first of all, I am going to start with certain materials. I have regular white stringer, I have a white rod, and then I have intense black stringer, which is a special black. And then I have regular black rod. It's kind of a skinny rod, but that's regular black. And those are the four items I'm going to use to make the sheep. And I was pointing to that rod because I was noting that the intense black rod, it already comes in rod form. I bought it as stringer. In that thickness, but the white I didn't. You can buy white in stringer form, but you can also make your own. And so I'm just going to show a quickie video here, or a section here, of how to make a stringer from the end of your rod. So I have just my regular rod. I let my ball, my molten ball, firm up a bit, and then I slowly start stretching out, very slowly. And you just till the thickness you want it. And I want them a little bit thick, you know, like 2 millimeter, 1.5, 2 millimeter. And I'm breaking it off in the flame there. But the whole time I was pulling it out, it's kind of hard to see in the video with white and then the flame. It was out of the flame until the very end when I dipped it down and put it in the flame to break off that end there. But it was all in front of the flame just so you could see it. So now I'm heating up a mass of white. I just cut to this so you don't have to watch me laying all the glass down. And it's very soupy. White's very soft. And I want it to be drooping a little bit so that the hole is closer to the top, so that the sheep will, you know, lay correctly and, you know, top to bottom when you wear it. And so I'll show a little bit of a close-up here. You can see there's more glass on the bottom of the bead than there is on the top. And so that's so the sheep will hang down, you know, feet down when they're made. So the first step I'm going to do after making my base bead is stick the head on. And for this, I'm going to do one large lumpy dot at the top of the bead, and so that's a couple little rounds of glass there, and so it's quite a big dot. And then I'm going to flatten it down until I have like the width of the head that I want on the surface. And so after that, I am going to put a smaller dot right next to that bigger dot, right below it, touching it. And then I'm going to flatten that small dot too. And it kind of makes an elongated head that gets skinnier at the bottom. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see it's kind of flattened. But as I melt it in, it's going to round out. And the thing I want, though, is I want a little bit more bulk on the nose section. I want the nose to stick out a little more. So I'm swiping on some extra glass from the middle of the head downward to the nose, and I'm only heating the nose part, not the top part, and so it kind of sticks out a little bit more at the bottom. It's kind of hard to see because it's a white bead, but and then so you can see it kind of sticks out a little bit more there, and I'm even adding a tiny bit more glass to have the nose stick out just a little bit more, so it's on an outward angle from the bead. And so there's the head. So our head's all done. And the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to stick on the feet. But I am not going to flatten in the feet yet until I have all the little wool bumps attached, because I don't want them to get stuck or accidentally hit the feet with the little stringers. When I'm trying to put bumps around the whole body. So I'm just going to place them on and just leave them as like two little dangling balls of black glass at the bottom, and I'm not going to flatten them into little feet yet. And so I just want to make sure I have enough glass so it seems like they're going to be big enough feet and that they're evenly sized with each other. And I just heat those in really well and let them hang down a little bit. And there's the two little black feet. And the next step is putting on all the little bumps. And so I speed up this video just in a few seconds, just so you don't have to watch me putting all the bumps on, because this is the longest section, is putting on all the little bumps. And the only thing I don't put bumps on is right next to the side of the head where the ears are going to go. So I kind of have the bumps sticking out a little bit further away from the head on the top of either side. But otherwise, I put the bumps all the way around the bead, and they're not actually touching each other. They don't have to be touching each other. Some are smaller bumps, some are bigger bumps, just to give it a little variety and variance and looks a little more natural. And so wherever you think you need to add a little dot because it just looks like too much of a flat section, you can add a little bump dot. And so here I think a piece of glass broke off and was stuck on my mandrel, so I stopped and got that off right away because I didn't want it to accidentally stick on my bead. And so here I just placed a slightly larger dot of white, and that's where the tail is going to go, where the black of the tail is going to go. And you want to do that just so that, because if you tried to put the black straight down in between a bunch of white bumps, your black won't be a really nice little round ball. It'll actually get distorted from those white bumps being around it. So you want to put a little base bump of white so that it's at the same level as all the other little dots you're putting on. And I make it a little bit bigger because the tail's a little bit bigger. So I make it about the size I'm going to make the tail. And so now we got all the bumps. So I'm zoomed in a little more just so that you can see it. And now we're back in regular time. I'm heating the bumps a little bit, but not too much, because I will be adding more heat to this bead and I don't want to melt them all in. Now I'm going to make an ear. And the first thing I do is I'm going to just swipe down the side of the head a little bit of where I think it needs to be, which is about 1/3 down the side of the head. And then I try to line up the second ear on the other side with the little swipe in the same position. And after I establish that, then I can add more glass to get the size and length of ear I want on either side. And the bottom of the ear, only the part I swiped on in the beginning is touching the bead at all, because I want to establish the size and length before I actually lay it down. And so I'm just pulling out the glass a little bit to lengthen the ear. I just touch it with my rod and pull it a little bit and then melt the end back in so it lengthens them out a little bit. And then I needed a little more glass on the one ear. So now I have my little handy dandy dental tool, which is kind of like a slightly curved little skinny spoon. It's my favorite tool. And I flatten that little ear down and I touch it to the rest of the head. So I'm flattening it down and kind of touching it in and melting it in, and I'm shaping them a little so that they're the same, or I try to get them anyways, the same type of angle and length on each side. So I try to make them as even of ears as I can get. And so I'm just shaping them up with my little tool and then melting them in a little bit. And I think I decide that I still don't have enough glass on that right ear there. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit more. And then I will push that down and lengthen it a little bit. And I think the ears will be pretty even at this point. And so after that's all done, now I could go back and flatten the feet. I could have flattened the feet right after I did all the dots, but I figured, you know, I need a little more heat in the rest of the bead, and so I flatten the feet now, and I get to heat the bottom of the bead and a little bit of the back of the bead just to keep it nice and toasty. So I'm just doing a different section now. And so I just flatten them up until I feel like they're, you know, squished enough to make cute little feet on the bottom, and try to make them even. And there's the feet. And so now we're going to use the intense black stringer. Regular black is just a dark purple. So if you're making little tiny dots for eyes or the tail or the nose, they can actually come out looking a little purplish instead of a nice black. And so I'm using intense black here so that the tail, the nose, and the eyes will come out a really nice black and not have that purple look to it. And so I'm flattening down the little tail a little bit just so that when somebody's wearing it around their neck, it's not going to poke out into them too much. It's raised a little bit off the surface, but not a whole lot. And now I'm going to place a little nose, and this is going to be, you know, towards the bottom of the head, and then two little tiny eyeballs. And I just want to make sure they're even. The right eye needed a little more glass. And then I melt them in about halfway, so they're still raised a little bit, but you got to make sure they're fully melded so they don't actually pop off later. You don't want that happening. And then I melt in the nose a little bit. And then you check it out and see if it's actually completed. And if it is, then I go around and I'm heating in all those little white bumps. So now I'm giving the bead an overall heating so it stays nice and toasty. And I'm getting all the white bumps melded in enough so that they're fully fused but still raised. And I always leave this to the end. And there you have it, a little sheep. Thanks for watching.